Whose footprints were those in the snow leading up to my cabin, and why did my soul recognize them before my eyes? Ever did I saw them just after sunrise, two narrow trails stamped deep into the fresh powder, weaving like someone half dragged, half determined. They led straight to my front door and then stopped. That should have frightened me, but what I felt was something else. A ripple, a warning, or perhaps an answer. My name is Mercy Whitlow. I was 17 that winter alone on the mountain for 2 years since Pa passed with a rattle in his chest and Ma long before him. Folks in Ash Hollow said it was a mercy I'd been spared a fast life in town. A girl untouched by man or mischief, the Reverend called me once. God's own blank page. But I wasn't blank. I was empty. Empty as the valley after Snow White wide, and waiting for something real to break the silence. When I opened the door, it broke. She was collapsed against the porch beam, draped in wet silk and stormlight. There are some sounds you carry inside you even before you ever hear them. The creak of a coffin lid, the first breath of someone you thought had died, or the sound of hooves in fresh snow, too many to be friendly, too steady to be lost. I was outside splitting kindling when the wind changed. Carried with it something heavy and cold that had nothing to do with winter. I looked up, and there it was, a line of dark shapes weaving through the trees, slow but sure. Horses, 4 of them, saddle heavy, men who knew how to ride and what to ride for. They'd come for her. I dropped the axe and bolted inside, heart already galloping. Clara was standing near the fireplace, fingers wrapped tight around a chipped tea mug. The color drained from her face before I even opened my mouth. How far? Half a mile, maybe less. She didn't ask who. She already knew. Her hands shook as she set down the mug. I should go. No time. You'll head for the ravine, they'll follow your trail. You'll freeze before you make it out. Her lips pressed into a line so thin, it might have been silence itself. Then give me up. My blood went hot. You think I'm handing you back like cattle? I think I'm not worth dying for? I stared at her, this woman with a voice like thunder hiding in skin too soft for the world that wanted to devour her. Too late, I said. The knock came next. Not frantic, not hesitant, just inevitable. 3 slow raps. Like a funeral drum that didn't need to rush. Clara backed into the shadow near the table, but she didn't run. Her eyes locked on mine, green and wide, and full of a desperate kind of calm. Hide in the root cellar, I whispered. No, please, I won't watch them hurt you from under the floorboards. The knock came again, louder this time, measured. I reached for Pa's rifle still mounted above the door like a relic. My hands knew it, though I never fired it at anything but deer. It was heavy with memory, with his sweat and my silence. Mercy Whitlow, a voice called through the wood. Too smooth, too polite, the kind of voice that offered you tea before the poison settled in. I opened the door 2 inches, and there he stood. Henry Sloane looked nothing like the monster in my mind. No wild eyes, no red hands, just a man in a tailored coat with polished boots and a silver tie pin that shimmered against the frost. Behind him, 3 others waited like vultures dressed in human skin. One of them held Clara's veil in his hand. Sloane touched the brim of his hat. Miss Whitlow, apologies for the intrusion. I'm searching for my bride. She's not here. He smiled soft as snake's breath. We tracked her prints to your porch. Snow buries a lot, not fast enough. Behind me the floor creaked. I knew that sound, the one Clara's foot always made near the hearth. Sloane's eyes flicked just slightly past my shoulder. She stepped forward. Barefoot in my mother's wool dress. Hair unbound, cheeks pale, but chin high. Henry. His expression didn't change, but something in his body stilled, like a wolf realizing its prey had grown teeth. You ran, he said. You chased. You're mine. No. It was a word made of flint. She said it without tremor, and it filled the room. Sloane's gaze narrowed. This girl hiding you, does she even know what you are? I know she's not yours, I said, stepping beside her. You're interfering in matters above your station. I raised the rifle a hair. Funny, you look like the one trespassing. One of his men moved forward. A twitch in his fingers, a weight shifting in his boots. The kind of man who liked bruises more than coin. Clara's hand found mine. Her grip was small, but it steadied me. Told me I wasn't alone anymore. That maybe I'd never been. Sloane's voice dropped low. You're making a mistake, maybe I said. But it's mine to make. Another silence fell, this one thick as pine pitch. Then, more hooves. From the east, a lone rider. Hat pulled low. A badge catching morning light. He rode up slow, deliberate, and dismounted without a word. The chill shifted when he came closer, not colder, just clearer. Everything all right here, Miss Whitlow? He asked, voice calm, but edged with authority. Sloane turned. Stay out of this, deputy. Sheriff's orders were to monitor all interactions regarding the Voss claim. That includes unsanctioned retrievals. I have a contract. She has a voice, the deputy replied. Then to me, you want him gone? I want her safe. He turned back to Sloane. You heard the lady. Sloane's jaw clenched. This isn't over. I felt Clara press her shoulder to mine. You're right, she whispered. It's just beginning. Sloane turned his horse with a flick of his wrist, his men following, boots cracking snow like brittle bone. No threats, no gunfire. But I'd seen the look in his eyes. He wasn't finished. The deputy lingered as they disappeared into the trees. You're brave, he said to me. I didn't feel brave. I felt hollow, like the shot I didn't fire had gone off inside me anyway. Clara let go of my hand only when we were sure they were gone. The fire crackled behind us. The snow fell steady now. They'll come back, I said. Yes, she said, but next time we won't be alone. And for the first time, I believed her. Not because of the deputy, because of us. Because of what happens when two women stop running and decide to stand together. Some things don't burn. Not with fire, not with time, not even when you try. They stay in your hands, your breath, your bones like embers too stubborn to die. Like guilt or love. That night, after Henry Sloane and his riders vanished into the trees, the wind didn't howl. It whispered, low and uneasy, like the mountain had seen something it couldn't quite name. Clara and I sat in silence, the kind that says more than words ever could. She was at the table wrapped in my mother's quilt, her fingers clutched around a tin cup of broth that had long gone cold. I stayed near the fire, poking at coals with a branch, even though the heat made my cheeks sting. I was too afraid to turn around. Not of her, of what we were becoming. I used to think, Clara said quietly, that if I just kept running, eventually I'd disappear. I didn't answer. I was wrong. The fire cracked softly. Sap popped. My chest ached with the weight of things unsaid. They won't stop, Mercy, she whispered. I know. Hell come back. More men. More guns. I know. She set down the cup with a click. So we have to leave. That made me turn. Do we? She looked up. Her green eyes were dim with exhaustion, but something fierce still flickered there. I don't want to keep running, she said. Then we don't. But how? With what? Your pa's old rifle and a bag of dry hope, I smiled, but it didn't quite reach my heart. I've got 2 bags. That almost made her laugh. Almost. I walked over to the hearth and knelt, pulling up the loose floorboard near the stone, the one Pa always told me never to step on. Beneath it was the war chest, cedarwood stained dark with years and secrets. Inside, ammunition, a silver flask, a folded journal tied with rawhide, and an old sheriff's badge, dull but unbroken. Clara came to stand beside me. Her bare feet brushed the wooden planks like she belonged here more than I ever had. Your father was a lawman? She asked. I nodded. Before the territory got bought out. She reached down and touched the badge, gently, like it might wake. Did he walk away? No. They shut the law down around him, paid everyone else to stay quiet. He didn't take the money. just the silence. Clara looked at me, and I knew what she was thinking. We both came from men who made bad trades. Only difference was, I still had time to choose better. I stood and pulled the wanted flyer Sloan had dropped, his face sneering beneath a printed bounty. I tossed it into the flames. His paper grin curled and blackened, then turned to ash. Clara sat back down, slow and careful, like she was balancing something fragile and dangerous inside her. "There's someone in town," she said. "Martha Devereaux. She runs the inn. Her daughter was engaged to a Pinkerton who crossed Sloan once, and he vanished. She never forgave Sloan, but she also never stood up to him." "Think she will now?" Clara hesitated. "She might, if she sees we're not just more girls begging for mercy." I crossed the room and pulled down the satchel I hadn't touched in over a year. Last time I packed it, I was ready to leave everything behind. This time, it felt different. "Sun comes up in 6 hours," I said. "We head into town. Well be seen. We want to be." She blinked. "You sure know?" I turned toward the window. The snow had stopped. The world looked new and cruel and holy all at once, a white canvas, but the tracks leading away from our porch had already begun to vanish. "You can still run?" I said without facing her. "You can pack up and disappear? Find a town Sloan doesn't touch." "There is no such town." Silence. I thought she might walk away, or cry, or beg me to think again. But what she did was worse. She walked up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. Slow. Like she knew she was crossing a line and did it anyway. Her cheek rested between my shoulder blades. "I'm tired of burning pieces of myself to survive." I closed my eyes. So was I. She pulled back slightly, just enough for me to turn. Her face was tilted up soft in the firelight. "I'm not asking you to save me," she said. "I don't think you need saving." She smiled, then leaned her forehead against mine. We stayed like that for a long time. No kiss, no promises, just breath, just heat. Just two women holding on while the world closed in. And I realized it wasn't about what Sloan would do. It was about what we would choose not to let him take. I stepped back. "Go get some sleep." She nodded, brushed her fingers against mine once more, and turned toward the cot. As she walked away, I saw something tucked at her wrist, a thin red ribbon. Frayed, sun-faded, a relic maybe, or a reminder. She caught me looking and covered it with her sleeve. Some things don't burn, and maybe they shouldn't. I banked the fire, sat near the window with the rifle in my lap, and listened to the quiet. Tomorrow, we would ride into a town that no longer belonged to men like Sloan, and if it did, we'd burn that down instead. The wind bit harder the closer we rode to Rosebend, as if the mountain air itself resisted what we were about to do. The town sat quiet beneath a sky so pale it looked scraped raw. It never seen her this still. Not even the dogs barked. Clara's hand tightened on the saddle horn. Her crimson dress was wrinkled from the night before, still faintly damp along the hem. But she sat straight, regal even. I'd never seen her look more alive or more like someone about to die for something bigger than herself. We passed the old mill first. Its frozen wheel groaned in the wind, stuck in time like the town's memory. At the schoolhouse, a child's drawing flapped on the shutter, a girl with a red dress and a black shadow looming over her. Clara looked away. "They've all heard by now," she whispered. I nodded. "That's the point." The first pair of eyes met us at the edge of Main Street. Sheriff O'Hara slumped on his bench, shotgun resting across his knees like a dead promise. He didn't move, but his gaze followed us like a closing noose. Then came the whispers. Doors creaked open just wide enough for judgment to slither through. The church bell didn't ring. The saloon's piano stopped mid-note. Windows blinked. By the time we reached Marlowe's general store, more than 50 townsfolk had formed a crescent of silence. And in the center stood Martha Devereaux, still in black, still unyielding. Her hair coiled like a widow's crown, and her eyes bore holes through us. Clara dismounted first. Her boots sank into the frost, but she kept her head high. I followed, heart hammering like a war drum in my ribs. "You brought her back," Martha said, coldly. Clara stepped forward. "No, Mom, I brought myself, and I'm not hiding anymore." Martha's mouth thinned. "You're the reason the storm's coming. Don't mistake lightning for redemption." From her satchel, Clara pulled a folded document-creased, dirt-streaked trembling slightly in her hand. She passed it to Martha. I could feel the town leaning in. "What is it?" someone whispered. Martha read. Her hand didn't shake, but her face paled. She looked up. "Affidavits, signed by Pinkerton agents, detailing bribes, arsons, vanishings, all tied to Henry Sloan." The crowd stiffened. One man crossed himself. Another woman wept into her scarf. Clara spoke louder this time. "I stole it from his private chest the night I ran. I didn't come for pity. I came to give you a choice." Then she turned to face them all. Voice, clear eyes, fierce. "You know what he's done. To your sons, your daughters, your land. You've just been waiting for someone else to bleed first." No one moved. I felt the tremor in her legs. She was barely holding herself upright. I stepped beside her. "She's not asking for forgiveness, just your spine." Martha looked at me. "You are always the quiet one, Mercy Langford." I smiled without warmth. Quiet isn't the same as coward. For a long beat, no one spoke. Then Caleb Morse, the blacksmith, broke the silence. He stepped forward, broad arms folded. "I seen Sloan burn down Lydia Cooper's barn with her husband still inside," he said. "And I did nothing. If this is our reckoning, then I'm ready." He turned and faced the crowd. "Who's with me?" More voices rose. First a few, then more. I spotted the teacher, the midwife, even two of the saloon girls, all stepping out one by one like seeds breaking through frost. Then it happened. From the north end of the street came the thunder of hooves. 3 riders, black coats, dust trailing behind them like smoke from a loaded gun. Henry Sloan. He dismounted like a man who owned the ground. His boots hit the dirt with finality. His face was stone and shadow. "Mercy," he drawled, voice slick as oil. "Didn't think you had the guts." I stepped forward, and my hand brushing Clara's as I did. "And yet here I am." He circled slowly, eyeing the crowd. "All these years I fed this town. Protected it." "You'd betray me for some girl's sob story." Clara stepped past me. Her voice was steady, but I saw her chest rise with each breath like it might be her last. "You didn't feed this town. You bled it, quietly, behind ledgers and locked doors." Sloan smirked. "Is that what this is, a little peasant uprising?" Then came the sound, sharp, steady. Click. Caleb cocked his shotgun. Click, click, click. One by one, rifles were drawn. From windows, from porches, from behind barrels. The quiet town of Rosebin Long, afraid now, standing taller than it'd ever seen. Even O'Hara stood, shotgun lifted, but eyes uncertain. Sloan's smirk faltered. "You'll regret this," he snarled. Martha stepped forward, voice like gravel. "We've already regretted silence." Clara turned to me, her fingers finding mine. "If this is the end," she whispered, "I'm glad it's beside you." I looked into her eyes, and I saw not the girl who ran, but the woman who returned, who faced fire and said, "Light me up." The town held its breath. And in that breath, I understood this wasn't just justice. This was a resurrection. Of truth. Of memory. Of love born not in safety, but in storm. And storms, when they come, make everything new. I once believed silence was safer than truth. But that morning, When Clara stepped forward and spoke her name into the muzzle of 100 regrets, the town of Rosebend exhaled its fear and found its voice. It wasn't a bullet that started it. It was a whisper. From the back of the crowd, little Josie Bell said, "She's telling the truth." And suddenly, 50 heads turned toward Henry Sloane, not with awe, but recognition. The man who'd bought their land, their votes, their silence, now stood stripped bare by a woman in a red dress. Sloane scoffed. "You want a hero? She left you." She crawled back to play martyr. He reached for the revolver on his hip, but Mercy moved first. Not with a weapon, but with her voice cutting clear. "Henry, I helped you. I signed your deeds. I lied for you. And if she's guilty, then so am I." She stepped between Clara and the gun. And then Caleb the blacksmith seized Sloane's wrist. The preacher's wife pulled a ledger from under her shawl. A rancher tossed a rusted badge at Sloane's feet. One by one, the town peeled away its fear like an old skin. No one fired a shot. Instead, they walked Henry Sloane unarmed through the center of the place he once owned. He passed the burned house of the Holloways, the empty lot where the trading post used to stand. Every step a reckoning. He looked at Clara. "Is this what you came back for, vengeance?" She shook her head. "No, I came back because I remembered who we were." That night, the town gathered under the falling snow. Lanterns glowed warm against the drifts, and the church bell silent since the funeral of Mercy's father rang for something new. Not mourning, not warning, but waking. They buried a time capsule beneath the willow tree, a small crate lined with red velvet. Inside, they placed the town ledger, now amended with Mercy's hand, a strip of Clara's wedding veil, a page from the town charter burned on one edge, a child's drawing of a woman in red arms outstretched. Beside it, Clara pressed something of her own, the turquoise raven talisman once worn by her mother. "It doesn't belong to me," she said quietly. "It belongs to what comes next." Weeks passed. The town didn't become perfect, but it became honest. They voted in a new council. Caleb Mercy and old Sheriff Vaughn. The saloon was bought and turned into a school. The church housed travelers. Sloane's estate, never truly his, was opened for reparations. Clara declined every invitation to lead. "I've said what I came to say," she told them. "Now I want to listen." But still the children followed her like a shadow in sunlight. They asked about the red dress, about the fire, about what love meant. She told them, "Sometimes love is what you stay for, not what you run to." I remember the moment she told me she was leaving. Not to run, to return. Back east, there was a group of women widows healers, former teachers, building safe places for girls. Clara had been writing them, quietly, planning. "I don't want to be the reason Rosebend forgets how to lead itself," she said. I looked at her standing by the same tree where we buried the past, her hands in her coat pockets, her hair braided now, lips pink from cold. "Will you come back?" I asked. She didn't answer right away, then soft as snowfall. "Will you be here when I do?" I nodded. "Always." She kissed me then. No crowd, no ceremony, just two people beneath a sky that finally felt wide enough. The day she left, the whole town walked her to the edge of the canyon road. Josie Bell handed her a paper bouquetini flowers cut from the old town ordinances. Mercy slipped a ribbon onto Clara's wrist, red like the dress, but silk soft, a symbol, not a shackle. As she rode away, no one cried. Because sometimes the most beautiful goodbye is the one filled with beginning. Years have passed now. The willow's roots are thick. The plaque above the capsule reads, "To those who remembered." And every spring when the red blooms return, girls in the schoolhouse paint them onto their dresses with berry dye. Not to mimic Clara, but to remind themselves that a single voice whispered loud enough can become a bell that wakes the world.